Welcome to the first video of a series under which we will be going through the AQA A-Level Business Studies specification. So firstly, let's get on to the first chapter. What is a business? A business is an organisation that transforms inputs or resources into outputs or products purchased by customers. What is a good? A good is a physical product, whereas a service is an intangible item. In other words, you can touch goods but you can't touch services. Products, therefore, is a general term which includes goods and services. So why a business is important? Well, businesses create employment because they create jobs for individuals. They also create income because profits are paid to owners and employees get paid for their workers' income. They also create new products, and new goods and services can improve the quality of life of a country. And lastly, businesses can enhance countries' reputation because they can establish and maintain a country's reputation of being innovative and forward-looking. So what do businesses actually do? Well, as we said, they transform inputs or resources into outputs or products purchased by customers. They operate the transport and technology that people use, and they supply the goods and services needed by modern economies. So what are the three sectors of business? Well, firstly, there's the primary sector. Examples of this include forestry, fishing, farming, mining, quarrying, oil and gas extraction. And there's the secondary sector, which is mostly related to manufacturing and construction. For example, the supply of gas, electricity and water. And then lastly, there's the tertiary sector, which deals with the supply of services such as healthcare, education, catering and transport. Another question frequently asked is, why does the UK rely more on tertiary sector supply than secondary manufacturing services? In other words, why has the secondary sector declined? The main reason is that overseas businesses supply manufactured products more cheaply. For example, in countries like China, although even there it's no longer as cheap as it used to be. And the second reason is because rising incomes have created more demand for services. So the next question is, what is a mission statement? Well, a mission statement is a statement setting out what a firm is trying to achieve and why it exists. And it needs to consider benefits to the community, organisational values, how to satisfy consumer needs and non-financial goals. So what are the pros and cons of having a mission statement? Well, the pros is that everyone knows what they're trying to do. All actions are focused towards the same thing. And in larger businesses, this leads to better organisational performance. Second reason is it enables easier decision making. And the third reason is that it's motivating. Employees know why they are there and what the business wants them to achieve, and this gives them a sense of belonging and direction. Disadvantages of a mission statement is that it could be unrealistic or for PR, and it needs support. What is an aim? An aim is a long-term plan from which business objectives are derived. The key features of corporate aims is that 1, it relates to the whole business and helps set out time-related quantifiable objectives. 2, it tends to be set out by senior employees to guide objectives and junior employees. So what is an objective, I hear you ask? An objective is a medium to long-term target established to coordinate the business by showing clearly what has to be achieved. They must be SMART, which is an acronym that I will soon explain. This is because all objectives contribute to the fulfillment of a company's corporate aims and mission statement. So what does SMART stand for? Objectives have to be specific because they need to describe exactly what the firm is measuring. They need to be measurable, so it needs to have quantities. It needs to be agreed because if objectives are widely discussed and mutual, then people are more likely to be committed to meeting those objectives. And they need to be realistic because objectives have to be achievable and attainable to motivate employees. And lastly, they have to be time specific. There needs to be a timer on the time available to achieve a target. So what are the 6 common business objectives? I've used a mnemonic here which is SPEG-CD. So the first objective is survival. So survival objectives involve trading over a defined period of time and not seizing. It's particularly important during recessions, times of intense competition or hostile takeover. Second objective is profit and profit maximisation. Businesses target having the greatest difference between total revenue and total costs, or they may want to have minimum profit to focus on other targets. In other words, they satisfy, so they say once we've made X amount of profit, we'll focus on other objectives. Increased profits lead to increased company value, share price and dividends, and this is why this exists as a business objective. Then there's ethical and social objectives. So social objectives involve setting targets for employment and facility improvement, and ethical targets involve setting targets based on moral principles. Those social and ethical objectives improve company image and attract customers and investors. Then there's growth. Businesses want to grow to survive and to exploit their market position for profits and dividends. Growth also improves job security. There's cash flow, because businesses need to have enough cash to pay their debts on time and to have a longer cash cycle, which is the time period between the cash outflow to pay for the resources to produce a product and the receival of the cash receipt after sale. Lastly, there's diversification objectives. Diversification objectives involve producing a wider or higher range of unrelated goods and services. Diversification spreads risk by selling lots of products. It avoids all eggs being in one basket, because if one product fails, an alternative products or markets can provide revenue while the business seeks new projects. What is the difference between short-run and long-run objectives? Well, short-run objectives might involve reducing training and development expenditure for profits, whereas long-run objectives might involve improving employee skill or performance, developing new products, and expanding into new markets. A good way to distinguish between short-run and long-run is that long-run objectives tend to be expensive, so short-run profits fall. Why do businesses actually set objectives? There's three key reasons in my opinion. One is that everyone knows what they're trying to do because of objectives. If all actions are focused towards the same thing, it tends to lead to better organisational performance. The next thing is that it's motivating. Similarly to mission statements, objectives help employees know why they're there and what the business wants them to achieve, which gives them a sense of belonging and direction, and so they can see their progress to set targets for themselves and to motivate themselves. Lastly, there's review. Reviewing allows for reflection and judgment. Decisions are made, and reviewing compares actual performance against objectives to show what went well in terms of what objectives were fully and efficiently fulfilled and what can be done better for those objectives not fully and efficiently fulfilled. Now we're going to be talking about the measurement and the importance of profit. Profit is the surplus of total revenue over total costs for a business over a trading period. Revenue is income generated by a business from its trading activities. There's two calculations you need to know. One is revenue equals price times quantity sold. The next is profit equals total revenue minus total costs. What is a cost? Well, a cost is just an expenditure that a firm makes as part of its trading. There's two types of costs that you need to know. There's fixed costs. Fixed costs are costs which do not alter directly with a business's level of output. In other words, costs which do not vary directly in the short run with the number of items sold or produced. Examples of this would include rent, advertisement costs, and salaries. And then there's variable costs. Variable costs are costs which alter directly with a business's level of output. In other words, costs which vary directly in the short run with the number of items sold or produced. Examples of this would include wages, raw material, electricity usage bills, water usage bills, and fuel usage bills. What is total cost? Well, total cost is the sum of fixed and variable costs, so the definition is fixed costs and variable costs added together. Average cost is the cost of producing a single unit of output, calculated by the total costs of production being divided by the current level of production. And what is contribution? Contribution is the difference between sales revenue and variable costs of production. Contribution per unit is the selling price of a product less its variable costs. So there's some more equations here to learn. One is total variable costs equals output times variable cost per unit. Total costs equals total fixed costs plus total variable costs. Average cost equals total costs over total output. Contribution equals sales revenue minus variable costs. And contribution per unit equals selling price per unit minus variable cost per unit. What determines the amount of profit the businesses make? There's two factors. One is profit margins. Profit margins are the amount or percentage of a business's final selling price that is profit. Large profit margins tend to lead to large profits. The second is volume of sales, which is the good or service quantity sold without a price reduction. Large sales volumes tend to lead to large profits. So what are the limitations of cost analysis in decision making? Well, the limitations are that not all costs are fixed or variable. Many are semi-fixed or semi-variable. For example, example, for electricity bills, you might put down a deposit and pay a fixed sum of money, which is your fixed cost. Then each day that goes by when you're using electricity, the cost will go up in proportion. So that's the variable side, and hence we call these semi-fixed and semi-variable costs. Uses of cost analysis in decision making is that it helps managers to decide whether to change costs, output or prices based on if profit is possible. It also helps managers to decide whether to enter or remain in a market based on if profit is possible. Why is profit important? Well, to suppliers, if suppliers are more confident, they may allow a greater time period between delivery and payment, which could enable businesses to improve their cash flow situation by delaying the cash outflow to pay their suppliers. The second reason is ownership. Profitable businesses can earn their owners a loss. This is because they're popular in the market, so they're more likely to be taken over for large sums of money. Next is attraction to customers. Customers feel profitable businesses are more secure and sell more desirable products. Therefore, they're more likely to make long-term arrangements, which could lead to greater brand loyalty, sales revenue and profits. Finance is the last reason, because having profits means that it is easier to make banks invest because they believe your business will be able to repay its loans and interest payments on time. This means that it's cheaper to raise finance and expand because banks offer larger loans at lower interest rates.